I did catch up now on all things Monsterverse with Legendary's Monsterverse. I saw somebody in the chat. I think I lost the comment when I had to restart my computer, but somebody was saying, "Look, Kong," and whoever said that comment, if you're still here, say speak up about it because you were saying that Kong's got a hero's journey in the Legendary verse, and you're absolutely right. It's one of the things I love about it. In fact, I did a video way back when I first watched Kong Skull Island about how that movie treats Kong as a superhero. It's great. I love that about it. And it's why I'm drawn to Kong so much more than Godzilla. I like Godzilla in the movies. He's great. Everybody's like, but you gotta watch Godzilla -1. Look, I'm just not interested in Godzilla as the villain or as the monster or as like the you know, chaotic, just force of nature who's killing everybody. I'm not interested in that. I like him in the Legendary verse because he's the force of nature bringing order. And yeah, he may step on somebody, but he's there to, ultimately save humanity in the bigger picture of things. So I'm just not interested in Godzilla the monster per se. But even in the Legendary verse, and it's probably because Kong is the simian. Kong is he can emote more. We can feel his emotions more, from his, because he's ape-like, not lizard-like. And Godzilla's great in those movies. Don't get me wrong. But even in the last one, Godzilla, Kong, New Empire, you're following Kong's story. Godzilla's there, and he plays a very important part. But you're following Kong's story. He's the beginning. He's the big first shot, the last shot. It's his arc that you're following, And he does have a very much a hero's journey. So the hero's journey is still there in some places, but it's not there as much. And we'll talk more about that in a second. But first, I did mention last time the Godzilla Awakening. I was talking about this in reference to the Monarch series, which totally retcons this book, which is horrible. It's horrible. And we'll talk about the Monarch series because that's a great example of throwing the hero's journey out the window. But this is a great place to start. Like I said, I talked about it last time. It does, it gives you the history of, I'm blanking on the doctor's name now. Aizawa? No. I had the name down when the last time I talked about it. But it gives you the history of him and his father and how he learned that Godzilla was there to sort of bring order and whatnot. And, his story obviously culminates in Godzilla King of Monsters, in that important scene that I don't want to ruin for anybody. But that was good. The next one's in the comic book verse, because if you like those movies, and maybe you haven't read the comic books are a great place to read. The next one is The Birth of Kong, which is about Kong, his birth. How is he the last Kong on Skull Island? How does that happen? What happened to his parents, because if you watched all the way to the New Empire, of course, you know that the Kongs didn't originate on Skull Island per se. So that gives you the story of that, which is really cool. Then there's Godzilla Aftershock, which is a prequel to King of Monsters. And this is a great one. This one actually gives you an interiority of Godzilla. I was just saying you don't really have Godzilla's interiority. No, I'm sorry. This is a prequel. Yeah, it's a prequel to King of Monsters. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was right. So yeah, this is not the one that I'm talking about. But yeah, prequel to King of Monsters. So you get, the doctor, you get to learn a little bit more about her and what would have prompted her to make the decisions that she did, in King of Monsters. So it's a good book. It's a good, background. After that, we had Kingdom Kong, which is going to talk a little bit more about, at the beginning of Godzilla versus Kong on Skull Island there, the weather patterns are so erratic that they've had to put Kong in that, that fake dome, that alternate reality sort of dome, or virtual climate dome, I guess is a better way of saying it. It talks about how that happened, what was going on Kong Skull Island and you get more about the one character, I forget, he's the seismologist. He's kind of talking about what's going on there. So he fills in some of the gaps in the in-between threads. But the one that's the most interesting, I think, out of these is Godzilla Dominion. This is the one which is it's a prequel to Kong versus Godzilla. And you get Godzilla's interiority in this. The caption boxes, they're not like written in quotes or whatever, so you could maybe say that it's somebody, but it's Godzilla's interiority. And he's talking about, and it's very much the way Godzilla would think too, and more of a reptilian brain. He's not high reasoning and all this, but he's reacting to the things that have happened. And he references, like when a nuclear reactor's there. It's like, oh, it's one of their things. One of their things is going off, you know, and oh, the boats are around. Some of their things are here, you know. And he talks about humanity. He's like, you know, and some of them have even died for me, you know, and I'm here to help them and whatnot. So it's really cool. You don't get anything like that in the films, his interiority. And it's pretty cool. It's got some great art. I love this image of him just walking through the ocean. So this is really great. If you're a big Godzilla fan for the Legendary Verse, you really should read Godzilla Dominion. Really gets into his character more, and I like that a lot. Last one I read, of course, was the prequel for the New Empire, which is Godzilla Kong Hunted. And this one really does take you up from Kong versus Godzilla right up to where Kong versus, or right up to where New Empire starts. You understand why Scylla is Scylla. I always say that Scylla is in Rome. You know, you understand why Godzilla is fighting him in Rome. What brought Scylla to Rome? What's going on with Kong at the time? Who's there? There's a I will say, if you read this in order like I did, you read this before you watch New Empire, and I know most of you here have already seen New Empire, but if you read this before New Empire, there's another billionaire trying to build a super suit to fight Titans. And at first I was scared. I was like, is that what they're doing in New Empire again? No, please no. No, it's just this comic. It's enough for this comic, whatever. It gets you to that place. But obviously New Empire went a whole different direction, which is amazing. I finally watched New Empire. Man, more people should be talking about it. I think the problem with it, and I think it was popular, you know, I think the problem with it is a lot of kaiju fans are a little too hipsterish. Well, it's not the original kaiju. I prefer the 70s, blah, blah, blah. You know, not everyone, but a lot of them are kind of like that. And these movies deserve their props. They're really great, solid stuff for what they're trying to be. I think they're great. I think what a especially as a Kong fan myself, you know, I like the Godzilla. I mean, I like the King Kong iterations. I love the original, obviously, the one they did in the 70s with what's her name? Jessica Lange? Yeah. And then, of course, Peter Jackson's. I thought that had a lot of great things in it, too. So even the Mighty Joe Young, which, of course, you know, Kong was sort of based on in some ways back in the day, the original. So good stuff. I liked it. You guys are talking about some other Godzilla. So you're talking about Godzilla Half-Century War. Art is great, too, but that's not in the Legendary universe, right? I know there are a lot of Godzilla comics and runs that have been written out there as well, which maybe some might be interesting to me. I don't know. I know there's a Netflix series of Kong Skull Island, which I don't think is technically in the Legendary verse, but obviously inspired by it. I don't know if that'd be any good. Obviously, it's Netflix is involved, so you got to raise an eyebrow there. I don't know about that one though. I agree, Guyvar. Yeah, Kong or Godzilla Kong New Empire was such a joy to watch in theater. Oh, I bet it was. Kong with a mech arm. I know, that was so cool. And that end scene when, I mean, you're in Kong's head. You're sympathizing with him when he's trying to get Godzilla to help, and Godzilla's like, "You're an alpha in my territory," and Kong's like, "No, look, there, whatever," and Godzilla just attacks him anyway. You know, which is what a reptile would do. You know, he doesn't have the higher reasoning function until Mothra comes, which is wonderful to see Mothra again, right? But it's so great when the two of them team up in that scene. The director Adam Wingate talked about how he just wanted to give people a scene when the whole, you know, they're coming to the clash and you know, he jumps on Godzilla's back and then jumps out. Oh, so freaking cool. That was brilliant. Man, I loved it. And granted, I'm not keeping my tab on the pulse of popular culture, so maybe there was a bigger hubbub about it than I remember. But it's like, man, why weren't people screaming about this movie? But, you know, some of you were, I'm sure. Nathaniel Zosball said, I would like to talk about what made Kong a great... I would like to talk about what made Kong a great king in the New Empire, and how he shows there was strength in being kind as opposed to the villainous story. You're right, and I'm probably open with that next week. That's a great idea. You make a great point, and you're absolutely true. Like when I say that Kong is the one we follow his hero's journey, and he is King Kong, right? And yeah, you see him come into a kingdom there that's being run by a tyrant, and you see him being kind. You know, even though he's the alpha, he's kind, he's benevolent, and he when he sees that little Kong, the little Kong Jr., you know, at first, long before he knows this is a trap or whatever, he's reaching out, you know, to the child to be kind to him, you know. And the comics even get into this more. Kong Skull Island got into it, but how he is the keeper of Skull Island. You know, he was there taking care of the non-predatory races and whatnot. So yeah, it's something we've seen in Kong from the beginning of the Legendary verse. But you're absolutely right. It's in the Kong New Empire as well. Good point.